You're welcome to the class. Our class for today, Basic Science, and we are continuing on habitats, living things. Part 2 today, we're taking part 1. Today we'll take part 2 of living things. We have mentioned the different habitats. We explained what an habitat is in our previous class. We talk about the different types of habitats. In our class for today, the objective is that we're going to talk about different organisms that can be found in these habitats. Then that is the aquatic habitat and the terrestrial habitats. And remember that terrestrial habitats are organisms or habitats that it's not aquatic. There's things that live on the land that cannot live in the sea or water. So they are things that live in the land, organisms that exist, that their ecosystem is on the land. While aquatic, it's organisms that their ecosystem is on the water. So I'm going to give you examples of these creatures, and thereafter we will talk about adaptation, state various adaptive features of living things in their habitats. So let's look at the examples. First I just classify them into 2 areas, aquatic and terrestrial. When we talk about aquatic, it has to do with things that live in the water. It can be ocean, it can be sea, it can be pond, it can be lake, it can be river, provided there is a body of water that surrounds them. And their ecosystem supports the water kind of living. So we have, under the aquatic features, we have fish, we have frog, we have duck, we have water lily, and other trees too, other organisms that can exist in the water, sea turtle. All of these are organisms that live in the aquatic habitats. Now we have seen the kind of things that live in the aquatic habitats. What about any terrestrial, which is the land? And the land, under the land habitats we have the mountain, we have the grassland, we have the coastal region, we have the temperate region. All of this makes up this terrestrial because they are all found in the land. Mountain, deserts. We have the desert habitants. We have the mountain habitants, which is always very cold. There are animals or organisms that can exist in these areas. For example, the rainforest, the grassland, the mountain, the hills. There are some animals that cannot stay in the temperate region. There are some animals that can live in the temperate region. And so, for example, for the mountain, we have mountain goats, we have snow leopard, we have these two, because the places are cold. The snow leopard, the hair in the body helps the snow leopard to absorb cold. The mountain goat, that's where it can exist. You cannot bring the mountain goat to come live in the grassland or the temperate region. It will not survive. That doesn't support his livelihood. It doesn't support his ecosystem. It doesn't support his makeup. So it is not, that mountain goat will not adapt to the adaptive features of other habitats. That is not his own habitat. We go to the next one, which is the deserts. You know, deserts will have little water in that area. So animals like camel. You look at the hunchback of a camel, there it stores its water that takes care of the living condition of the camel over a period of time, even if there is no water for the camel to drink. The reservoir gives it water at every point in time. Camel, rattlesnake, and kangaroo rats. All of these creatures, these living organisms, they live in the deserts. They exist in the deserts. Then we'll talk about the grassland. We'll talk about the coastal region. We'll talk about zebra, lion, elephant, and the variety of insects that stays in the ecosystems. So these are examples of organisms that live in these different habitats. We talk about the aquatic habitat. We saw fish, we saw frog, we saw sea turtle, we saw duck. Then we talk about the mountain. We talk about the snow leopard. We talk about the mountain goats. Then we talk about the desert. We talk about the camel, the rattlesnake, the kangaroo rat, and other plants. You see, these plants can just be in the desert and they can live there, they can survive there because they don't need much water. Then we'll have zebra, lion, elephant, different variety of plants and insects that live within the habitat. Because they have a supportive nature that supports their existence, they are able to function in there. So these are examples of things that exist in different habitats. Your assignment is, go apart from these examples I gave, under aquatic habitat, list 3 other creatures, organisms. It can be insects, it can be plants, it can be animals that can be found in the aquatic feature. Then under the terrestrial, under the mountain habitat, the desert habitat, the grassland, please mention, apart from these ones I mentioned, please find 3 examples of creatures or organisms that can exist therein. Now let's go to the second objective. It says state various adaptive features of a living thing in their habitat. What are the adaptive features, adaptation, that every living organism needs to possess to be able to live in its habitat or its ecosystem? Let's see that point and see some of these adaptive features that make each habitat supportive in its own ecosystem. Adaptation. Features that makes organisms to be adaptive in their different habitats. When we talk about features that makes organisms to be adaptive in their different habitats, is what are those things that make an organism to survive in its environment? 1, environmental condition. 2, climatic condition. 3, the nature of the body of the organisms. And reproduction. What are those things that can help an organism to reproduce in its ecosystem? If the features, the enabling environment, water, carbon dioxide, oxygen, or air, the kind of food that sustains the life of these organisms is not found in the ecosystem, it will not live. It will not support its existence. That's why a mountain goat cannot come and stay in a grassland. A mountain goat cannot go and exist in an aquatic environment. Why? The living condition, the environment, the climate, the skin condition, which are the physical features of the organism, does not support that environment. So there is no way that creature, that organism, can survive in an environment that does not support its survival. You cannot take a frog to come live in a grassland where there is no water. Even if it can survive for a while, it will surely die because it cannot reproduce. What the frog will eat will not be found in that ecosystem. The temperature, the body system, the food, the procreation, whatever makes that frog to continue to exist is not supported in that ecosystem, so it cannot survive. And so the adaptation has to do with things that makes an organism to live better in its ecosystem and survive. The food, the carbon dioxide, the oxygen, the environment, the climatic condition, all of these features make an organism to get adapted to its ecosystem, to its environmental structure, for its life to continue in existence. And so in summary, we see that adaptation means features that help an organism to live and survive in a particular habitat. Components that help the organisms to interact better, such as energy, water, air or oxygen, food, carbon dioxide, and suitable living condition. Suitable living condition. Anything that makes the organism have a suitable living condition, it remains, it lives. So every animal look for their own habitats, their own ecosystem. If you look at the example I gave, a fish cannot live in the land. Then a leopard cannot go live in the water. A mountain goat goats cannot go live in the water. And the mountain goat or the snow leopard cannot come and live in the grassland. The rattlesnake cannot come to live in the grassland because it did not support its ecosystem. The camel cannot adaptively adjust to the land. That's why they use it for transportation and other things in the desert. So every living organism, man cannot go and live in the sea. Man cannot go live in the sea because the habitat there does not support his livelihood. Let's take man for example. If there is no food, the climatic condition does not adjust to his skin condition, the oxygen found therein, the water, the carbon dioxide, the sustainability found in this ecosystem where man exists is not there, man cannot survive and cannot reproduce. So there's no way you can carry man or take a man to go live in the water and he will live comfortably. No. Man can visit the water, stay for a while because there are other things he carried along to sustain, but after a while they are exhausted, the man dies of death. So every organism, be it man, be it plant, be it animals, they all have things that interact with their life that support livelihood. That makes adaptation possible. So we have come to the end of our class for today, Living Things Part 2. Next class we'll take Living Things Part 3. It's going to take us a while. We've talked about living things, habitats, types of habitats, things that, examples of things that lives in the habitat. We've seen what adaptation is. In other class, we'll still talk about other living things and how they exist. Thank you for dropping by on our basic science class for today. Until I come your way on our next class, please subscribe. Give us a thumbs up if you like what we're doing here. Make the class go viral. It's an educational class that helps students. And so no matter the level you are, you'll benefit from it. It's my pleasure being here as always. I'll find time to be here as much as I can. If you find value for what we're doing and you want to support the channel, interact with us below the comment box. You have questions, please ask. I gave you an assignment on how you will give me examples of different things that are found in different habitats. Please do it on your own. You can equally comment below the comment box. I will interact with you and I will respond. This class is not a monologue, it's a dialogue between you and I. Let's go and dialogue below the comment box. Thank you for always dropping by on the channel. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you. If you are a new subscriber, thank you for subscribing. If you've not subscribed, consider subscribing. If you feel you want to share, please share. It won't do you any harm. Click the share button and share it. Thank you so very much.